Hi, it's Frank, and for today I'll continue with the spoof parody illustration of Princess Daphne from Dragon's Lair. Well, this part won't be the illustration, this will be the assembly of the character. So what I did is I took the file, the PSD file that I worked on, and I fine-tuned it a little bit. I added this bird nest on top of her crown and then adjusted a couple things, and then just took that file and dropped it right here, and then it created this hierarchy, and then it put all my layers in there. This bottom thing I'll just delete, that's unrelated. So the first thing I'll do is I have to separate it. Once again, if you just go here and say, oh, well, I want to create a skeleton of this character, and then start creating the skeleton, and then say, oh, well, let me go here and add the arm bones and all that, what'll happen is it's all merged together. So you can see it looks really weird, and then it just acts really strange. So we don't want to do that. I'd have to go in there and just delete all those items, the skeletons, the bones. So now that they're deleted, I could start from scratch, but to do that and do it the right way, I have to take these limbs and separate them. Otherwise, if they're all together, when you add the skeleton bones, then they'll be all blended together like that, and that'll mess it up. So for the hair, I did want to create a duplicate. So before I do that, actually, wait a second, it looks like there are two layers of hair there from the original file. That's surprising. Well, no, this is the one I duplicated. So what I was going to do is just add another layer of hair, and to vary it up a little bit, I would just reverse it, and then I'll extend the length of it a little bit too. And then just bring that down there, almost like a dress, and then I could expand it out a little. So that was what I was going for her hair. Looks like it reset all the limbs from earlier. So for the arm, I'll bring that back out here. The other arm over here. Let's see, then the legs, one leg here and the other leg over here, and then for the face and all the parts for the face, actually have to add the bird nest to it. I'll just bring that up here, and then let's see, for this part I'll just move this over here. Actually, I'll put that over there, and that's for more physics-based animation with the hair as well. This way it looks a little more realistic. Secondary animation could really bring your character to life. So then, now that I have all that, I go back up to this top layer, and here's where I start adding the skeleton bones, and I always start at the bottom there. And now I'll move up here. Actually, I'll zoom out. And I'll continue adding a piece up here. For this bird nest, I'll have a little variation there, so it'll rotate a little bit. And then what I could do is add a little bit of movement on her hair. It's probably not necessary, but just a little bit. That probably won't do too much. But then next step I would do is, since the hair is attached to her head, I'll go right up here, and go from there. So I'll just have a whole bunch of layers here, so this will rotate as much as I want it to. See, because these weren't assigned, this affected everything that wasn't assigned to skeleton. So with this upper torso or chest, I'll just create little skeletons for these as well. Then I'll move on to her arms. Start back there, there it is. With the arms, I've learned not to connect these directly to each other, so just give a little bit of a space between each bone. That's the key to allowing that room for them to bend without distorting too much. So I'm almost finished here. Next thing I'll do is the leg. Actually, this won't bend at all, so I'll just leave it like that. And then this leg. And then I'll test it all out and see how it fits together with this tool here. And put these in place. That seems okay right there. See how the hair moves with the head? I gotta make sure I did that right. Here's the top layer to that, and I'll just move it right there. It's kind of like right in the way of everything else, so I'll leave it offset a little towards the right, maybe a little more. This way I could grab these skeleton bones as I need them without having to try to move everything out of the way. So now that most of this is finished. Let me zoom in a little so I can see what's going on here. Go back to that tool. That tool is called the offset bone. What it really means is you assemble all the bones where you want them on the drawing. So now I have to really zoom in here so I can see what's happening. Alright, that looks okay. And then I have to get the other one. As soon as you let it go, it moves. It's like you can't just let it go and stay where it is. This arm is kind of in the way a little bit. I guess that'll have to do. So I'll test it out now and see how all these pieces work. It looks like a lot to it. So that right there I have to adjust. That has to be adjusted. The hair movement looks good. That's what I wanted. And then the legs, that's way off there. That leg actually needs to be moved down. But before I do that, I'll adjust the weight over here. Make sure these are weighted so there's not such a weird crease. Alright, so wow, that's weird. Her whole arm is detached. I must have missed pressing the right item there. So I'll go into what tools called the bone strength, and I have to reduce this part here so it's not so weird of a bend. So I think right about there looks pretty good. Then I'll move to the other leg and reduce that a little bit. I think I have to adjust the placement of the bone there. For the arm, let's see. That looks a little better. That looks a little rough. So the hair movement, that looks fine. It doesn't affect her face too much. And then the bird nest, I have to adjust that a little bit. Yeah, that'll be alright right there. Yeah, that looks pretty good. So I have to fix some of this, and let me go into there, move this down a little bit. I have to go back and adjust this leg so it's further down. With the arms in the way, it's hard to see what I have here. So I think that should be okay. I have to fix this left arm because for some reason it was attached to the wrong item. So let's see, I have to, there's a button that allows you to reconnect it, which is this right here. You can see this has no connection. So if I click on this, looks like it's somehow attached to the leg. That's weird. This piece here, I don't know why that's attached. That shouldn't be connected to the leg at all. So to make a long story short, since it's still connected and I have no idea how to disconnect it, I'll just delete this whole skeleton here. It only takes a second to redo it. Of course, if you had to fine-tune the placement, that could definitely affect it. I remember I did click on this and then re-click it, but I don't know, maybe that had something to do with it. So it is trial and error to get it just the way you want it. Like with this piece here, I'll adjust these to see if that helps at all. And it's only going to get so good before it messes up. I think that looks pretty decent. So I'll move that over here. I was like, where did her other arm go? But it looks like it's okay. I had it invisible. Now where's her other leg? That's weird. The other leg, where'd that go? Wow, that was weird. So I have to redo the leg because for some reason it just like detached. So I'll click on the lead bone that it's attached to, then I'll just pull this down like that and continue. And now I'll hope that this bends at the right point. So that I don't want to reduce. This I'll reduce and see if that'll fix it. I think that's a pretty good bend. there are tools in certain animation programs that would prevent the limb from going like that, and in other words, you would bend it and it would lock right about there. But for me, I don't really need that kind of a tool. I've used it before and it's pretty cool, but sometimes it could create different issues depending on the angle of the character and the animation and stuff like that. So now that I have that completed, I'll just move this up here again, and now I can start the animation process. But the main thing I like to do, excuse me, is to get these actions created. And the first most basic action would be when she's standing. So let me get this set up. And one thing I could do is just close off all the items that are distracting, so it's a little easier to see. But for the ones that are animated, I'll leave those on. So anything you want to move, you click on it. So if you want the hair to move, you click on that. If you're not worried about the legs, then you wouldn't click on that. But as you can see, anytime her head moves, her whole hair moves. And the hair looks like it's kind of in the way a little bit. But I'll see how this goes. I might have to adjust something. Let me do that before I get into all of this. I'll take this piece here and just, well, it's connected, so rather than take that piece, I'll adjust the hair. And move this further over here and then bend it there. This way I have a little more room to work with. Then I'll come back here. I should really just test all these right now and make sure I got it the way I want it. That's what is a good step before I start animating. Make sure all these are working as they should. This used to, well, I guess that's how it is now, but that used to affect this lower part right here. I don't know why it's not working anymore. Like this was connected with this, but for some reason it's not rotating. I don't understand why it's doing that. See, that should be connected. I can't tell if it is or not. Yeah, it's not connected. I have no idea why. So I want this to connect with this there. Maybe that worked. No, it didn't look like it worked. It's right there. I don't see it. Well, let's see. Yeah, it's connected now. but this piece is not connected there. So I want this to connect with this. It seems so simple, and normally it works, but sometimes it doesn't. Oh brother, see, it's not supposed to rotate that. This might have affected everything. That connects with that there. Oh brother, this piece should connect to this piece. This tool is really confusing. I need to read up on it a little better. Yeah, that's totally messed up. Now I'm not really sure how to fix this. I have to do research and figure it out. See, that should not pivot her whole torso. That should just move her upper torso. Her whole body is being rotated. That's totally wrong. I don't know what happened. That's wrong. That's so messed up. It's not even funny. It won't click down, so I can't get anything that way. Alright, I'm gonna stop. Okay, so after a bit of trial and error, I finally figured out how to rotate this upper torso without having everything all messed up. So now you can see the skeleton bone beneath it is rotating with it as I originally intended. And the way I solved it was I clicked on this piece, then I clicked on this, and then I clicked on this piece here, and then connected it, thankfully, as I was hoping. So I'm not sure why it disconnected at first, but I could fix that in a couple other characters, and see if it's a rare thing, but sometimes it happens. But now that I have all this solved and the limbs bend at the right angles and not get squashed too much, I'll start the animation again. And I actually had to go back into my previous save file, so it's always good to save often, and that helped me get back to square one before it got messed up. So going back to the animation, any part that you want to have move, you just click on the bone of that part, and that creates the keyframe for frame 1. So I don't want her just standing like that. I'll have her stand a little more relaxed like that. That was unintentional there, but let's see, I'm trying to take this there. Alright, so this hair here, I'll just push back, maybe, well actually I'll have it rest, because it's supposed to be a stationary pose where she's just relaxed. And then her arms I'll have just relaxed. Maybe something like that. Alright, so that first keyframe for the stand is complete, and then I'll just duplicate it at the second of animation, the second of animation, and now the in-between frame, I'll just do that. Have her move slightly. So I'm not positive if that's what I'm going for, but it looks pretty decent. There's going to be a lot of movement for her mane of hair because there's so many keyframes, so many skeletons within it. But yeah, I think that looks fine. I could add secondary motions in there. So then I just go, let's see, so if her head's moving back, that would mean the tilt of this would be going this way. And the reason for that is it's not catching up with the head yet until here, and then it's going to be going forward again, and this is finally going to catch up, but it's going to be backwards. It's just a neat little trick for secondary animation, and it gives your animation a lot of personality. Like there's a wobble effect going on up there. The hair actually looks pretty good. I didn't even do much with it, but yeah, there it is. And this part here I could do some secondary animation too for the side of her hair. So she's moving her head back, and I have to make sure that this is keyframed, and then this is keyframed. So then if she's moving her head backwards, this would push down a little because there's pressure, there's force being applied, and it's creating pressure on her hair as though it's being pushed by the wind. So here it would go the other way, it would bounce this way. So I could probably save this since it's just a stand animation. But yeah, that looks pretty decent. And to get a good idea of what this looks like, you could just go preview, and then it'll render out a quick preview of what the final look of it would look like. There are a lot of layers, and this is definitely a complex character as far as animation. Alright, so that's pretty good for what I'm going for. Now I'll go to my next step, and that would be the challenging walk. I say challenging because this will be a little more challenging than usual because there's so much happening here. Alright, so first thing I want to do is create the main let's see, the main central stance for when she's in the middle of her walk. So I have to figure out roughly where that would be. Now I'm just clicking on all the outmost limbs, so that will keyframe them. And then for the height, I have to click on this one after selecting the Translate Bone tool. This way I can vary her height. So now that I have that first set of keyframes for frame 1, this will be about a second animation, so I'll just copy these to frame 12 and 24 out of 24 frames per second. And the way I determine 24 frames per second is within the project settings. I have it at 1920 by 1080 at 24 frames per second, and all this other stuff I don't adjust at all. But that's just to show 24 frames per second as traditional animation. With computer animation, the standard, I believe, is 30 frames per second as of the early days of computer animation. So next thing I have to do is get to my second step, and that would be right there. That's the most extended her walk is at that moment. And she'll be pushing forward a little bit, and then her hair will bounce back a bit, and then this should be pushing back, I believe. Yeah, because alright, so then this should be pushing back, and this as well. So I think I have that. Now this one will be this way, and it looks a little rough with the animation now, but once I go back in there and fine tune everything, it'll look better. So with the hair, I can just move that there, and then this I'll move forward for her arm, bend it a little more, and then now I have to make a choice. Should her arm be behind her hair or in front of it? Right now it's in front of it. Maybe her hair sticks out a little more, so I think that should be okay. This way I can see her arm. Alright, so for this frame, she's bouncing. Alright, she's hitting the ground, and she's moving forward still, so she hasn't hit the ground just yet. Alright, I think that should be okay. So now for this, I'll bring the character down. Maybe right about there. Maybe even a little lower actually. This will create a more dramatic bounce to her walk. but it gives all the personality to the walk, because if she's not if her height's not varied, it's just gonna look really clumsy. Alright, so now that I have the height variation, this is gonna make the secondary animation easier to figure it out. So do one step at a time. So with the nest egg, that's the right movement. It's moving down, so it's going to tilt backwards since she's moving forward. Now at this point it's going to catch up, so it's going to bounce forward, and then once she's here, it's still catching up. It's not going to be here, it's going to be catching up. And then this point here, it'll be caught up, so it'll be over here, and then she's moving downwards again, and then here again catching up. So it'll create a neat little wobble effect for the eggs. And I have to adjust frame 24 to make sure it's smooth, or not too smooth. Alright, so next piece after I save that, to save progress, would be the hair. The hair is pretty complicated. Well, maybe it's not, but well, actually it is pretty complicated. So the hair is moving forward at this point, and now I have to decide what kind of physics the hair has. So maybe it's bouncing inward, just to vary it up so it's not always pushed back. And here maybe her leg is kicking the hair backwards, so it'll finally be catching up right here, and then finally it's kicking back here, and then here it's still floating in the wind, and then there's the reset. I have to look and see what that looks like, but this test animation is not always reliable. It always skips frames. See, she's walking pretty quickly here because that's a pretty far stretch of her shoes, and that's why she bounces. Her height varies so much. So I think the hair should be okay. Let me just take a quick look. See right here, I think I could push the hair out a little further back, like right up there, just to vary it up a little. So I think that should be okay. See this one, maybe that's too far out. This way it doesn't look too weird if it's too far out of place. Alright, so next thing I have to do is the upper chest here. And she's moving down, so this is going to bounce up. and this is based off the original Dragon's Lair concept of Princess Daphne. This is a parody version of it. Alright, so she hits the ground here. That means right here this will be resting. And then moving upward, there's pressure here from gravity. So once she hits this point here, the pressure's released for the gravity, and this can continue the path that way. Now here she hits the ground, so this is still through the air a little bit. And then once the ground is hit, that's when the pressure hits the very bottom. So there's that. Alright, I think I got that. Now with my cartoons, I definitely make it for a grown-up audience. This is not for kids. And that's ever since I created Chicken Chop Shop, where the chickens are going through this horrible factory and getting all chopped up and everything else through all kinds of weird contraptions. That wasn't intended for kids either. So that's the goal of my cartoons. I'm just drawing these for what would entertain me first, and then since I'm of course in my 40s now, I'm definitely of the grown-up age. So that's the goal with my cartoons and animations. They're not meant for kids. They're meant for grown-ups. As far as, I mean, this character here. Alright, so there's that character walk. I think the walk is pretty good. The only thing I'll change is the legs. So I have to go back here, and then once this reaches, let's see, right about there, I could click this leg up a little bit, and it creates a neat little effect. See how it kicks out like that? Instead of just sliding, the leg will kick out. So even with this back leg here, I can have it bend a little there. This way it's more natural. So right here, I could have it bend up a little as though it's lifting up, and then right there it hits its point. So this one here I could have bend back a little, and then for here have it like that maybe, and then the tricky part here is frame 1 to 24. It has to be different, so I have to pull these out a little bit and then maybe go here, and that'll vary frame 1 to 24. This way when I combine them, they're not all out of. See, that's a huge jump. And here it slows down too much, so that's actually a bit of a problem. I might actually want to regain that past deleted keyframe. There it is back there. See, these are too gradual. This might be less gradual. Yeah, that's more abrupt. Only problem is it's too close to frame 1, so I have to decide how to vary it up. Or I could just delete it and just go back to frame 1. That would probably make the most sense. Yeah, I think that would make sense. See what happened there though? So rather than do that, I'll just do something like that. Yeah, that's not going to work. So these keyframes have to be here and set here. I don't know. If I delete these, let me just test it out here. I have to go copy and then paste here, and let's see how this works. Yeah, that works. So I just delete these, and that's where the start is, and then once it hits this frame here, then I click back to frame 1. So rather than paste frame 1 back here, that was just a guiding point, so I don't need it in there. Alright, so that's fine. And then finally I have the run. And then getting back to my other cartoons like City of Rot and Dead Fury and Shock Invasion, that's for a grown-up audience too. Just like if you're watching Family Guy, that's for a grown-up audience. So that's my intent with my cartoons. Some people say, oh, your cartoons are too gory or bloody or violent or whatever, but they're not meant for kids. That's the whole point. Just because it's hand drawn doesn't mean it's always meant for kids. So that was one of the things of the past that I've gotten some comments that say, oh, well, you should make your stuff more for kids, but I want to make stories that interest me first, so that's why. Otherwise, I won't have motivation to create the story. And when you're spending a whole year on a film, you definitely want to be inspired. So that's why I create stories that would interest me first, since I'll be putting it all together and having to find the motivation to continue, and everything gets messed up and the project starts falling apart. You just got to pull it together and keep going and find that motivation through the story and the characters and the action and whatever's happening. if it's not something that interests me, I probably wouldn't continue it. I probably would quit, and I would never have those films completed. So as long as it's like an adventure or something like that, I think that helps too. I like to vary it up and have my cartoons not just be one style and one idea and one genre, and that's it. I like to vary it up. So with the run, this one's going to be pretty tricky. Maybe I'll save the run for another time. Yeah, the run's going to be a bit time consuming. Okay, so getting back to the animation really quick. I'm on frame 1, so I'll just paste this right into frame 1. I'm on the actions, and I'll just paste the stand into frame 1. So you can see it just dropped everything right in there from my animation. I'm on the mainline keyframe timeline. So next thing I'll do is I'll just go right into that walk. I don't have to double click on this, just select it and then press on those two, and that'll copy it into this. This is the first 0 frame. I cannot use that, so I'll just get rid of that, and then you can see it goes right into the walk. So rather than start here for the copy paste, I'll start here and just select these and paste them there, and then I'll continue her walk. So I'll just highlight all those and paste that here, and then on frame 6 I'll get back to my original walk and then just copy the original frames and paste them there. So that'll allow it to settle into the stand animation, but I have to do some secondary animation here because her hair is going to be flowing forward with that sudden stop. So I'll just do that, and then have to check the hair up top. That would be moving forward as well. So if that's going like that and then she stops, this is going to push forward, and then it'll bounce out right about here. And this would be going forward as well a little bit. The momentum is really the key to it all. And it's definitely a challenge to animate. So there's the slowdown of the character, and there's the final stop right there. So this would still be going forward on the slowdown, and then the stop will move it back up to here. So I just have to now the hair is still going to be pushing back, so I have to bring it back here. And then it settles in. I'm sorry. So here I could move it forward just a little bit extra, because it's still got a lot of momentum. And then here it could just settle down, and that'll be it. So I'll just render that out and then see how that all looks. See, if I press play, it's not going to catch all these frames. But when I render it all out, it'll be much smoother. But that's the general idea of how to do a stand into a walk into a stand again. And now I'll render it out and animate it. And to do that, you would just go under export, and then I just applied layer effects, since layer effects is really just fades and stuff like that. This doesn't even have to be applied in this case, but I always have it applied this way. If you have a fade or some effect, that'll work for that. But one last thing I want to do is her eyes are open this whole time. Right before she starts to walk, I'm going to have her blink her eyes. So the way to do that is to just go into here, double click, go visible to invisible, deselect it, and then here click it again, and that'll make it visible again. But I have to turn on the eyelid so she's not too weird looking. Actually, I could just click on this since I keyframed it for frame 1 and then shut it off there. So there it is. Okay, so getting back to the animation really quick, I'm on frame 1, so I'll just paste this right into frame 1. I'm on the actions, and I'll just paste the stand into frame 1, so you can see it just dropped everything right in there from my animation. I'm on the mainline keyframe timeline, so next thing I'll do is I'll just go right into that walk. I don't have to double click on this, just select it and then press on those two, and that'll copy it into this. This is the first 0 frame. I cannot use that, so I'll just get rid of that, and then you can see it goes right into the walk. So rather than start here for the copy paste, I'll start here and just select these and paste them there, and then I'll continue her walk. So I'll just highlight all those and paste that here, and then on frame 6 I'll get back to my original walk and then just copy the original frames and paste them there. So that'll allow it to settle into the stand animation. But I have to do some secondary animation here because her hair is going to be flowing forward with that sudden stop. So I'll just do that, and then have to check the hair up top. That would be moving forward as well. So if that's going like that and then she stops, this is going to push forward, and then it'll bounce out right about here. And this would be going forward as well a little bit. The momentum is really the key to it all. And it's definitely a challenge to animate. So there's the slowdown of the character, and there's the final stop right there. So this would still be going forward on the slowdown, and then the stop will move it back up to here. So I just have to Now the hair is still going to be pushing back, so I have to bring it back here. And then it settles in. I'm sorry. So here I could move it forward just a little bit extra, because it's still got a lot of momentum. And then here it can just settle down, and that'll be it. So I'll just render that out and then see how that all looks. See, if I press play, it's not going to catch all these frames. But when I render it all out, it'll be much smoother. But that's the general idea of how to do a stand into a walk into a stand again. And now I'll render it out and animate it. And to do that, you would just go under export, and then I just applied layer effects, since layer effects is really just fades and stuff like that. This doesn't even have to be applied in this case, but I always have it applied this way. If you have a fade or some effect, that'll work for that. But one last thing I want to do is, her eyes are open this whole time. Right before she starts to walk, I'm going to have her blink her eyes. So the way to do that is to just go into here, double click, go visible to invisible, deselect it, and then here click it again, and that'll make it visible again. But I have to turn on the eyelid so she's not too weird looking. Actually, I could just click on this, since I keyframed it for frame 1, and then shut it off there. So there it is. Alright, thanks again for watching, and feel free to subscribe, like, and comment, and have a good day.